that's up to you.
Okay.
Take your boys and go down.
Yeah.
All right. All right, everybody, are you ready? Here we go. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jeff Whitehead. I am the Chief Operations Officer for the George A. Romero Foundation, which was founded in 2018. And our very, very special guest today is the one and only Tina Romero.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Oh, it's so good to be in Pittsburgh, PA, my hometown, at the Monroeville Mall of all places, with Jeff Whitehead. Thank you for having me.
Of course, thanks for coming out. I'll do just a quick briefing on the foundation, how it came to be, Tina's leadership in it, and then we're going to do some Q&A on Queens, and then open it up for questions from you all. So first and foremost, as I mentioned, the foundation was founded in 2018 to honor George. Our mission is to support future independent filmmaking with the preference, of course, in the genre in which George was famous, the horror genre, but not exclusive to it. So we support mentorships, scholarship programs, fellowship programs, and various and sundry other mechanisms by which independent filmmakers can have the access and ability to create their art, including one who is sitting right there taping us today, who we met when he was sitting in the chairs that you're in right now. And so we've got some really cool projects that we're currently undertaking, some really big projects that we're currently undertaking, including a symphony to honor George. But today is all about Tina. And for those of you who don't know, we will be moving right from here to 2 sold-out screenings down at one of my favorite theaters in Pittsburgh, the Row House Cinema. So congratulations, Tina, on the success of the film. I'm going to start off with a few questions, and because it's your day, I thought it would be nice for us to get to know you.
Great.
So can you give us your origin story? Tell us a little bit about what is putting you in this chair today. What inspired you to make films, to move from Pittsburgh to New York?
Yeah.
Please.
Okay, well, I think, my number one inspiration in life and as an artist is my dad. He was an incredible dad, incredibly creative, loved a project. People always ask me, like, your dad made some really crazy movies. Are you a little fucked up as a result? And I would always say, no, it wasn't the zombies, it was Santa Claus. Because my dad was an incredible Santa Claus, and it was never about the gifts, it was always about the story. It was always about the trials and tribulations that Santa went through. And like one year, for example, Santa forgot his wallet. And the wallet was there, and like poor Santa, everything he needed was in this wallet. There was currency from around the world, there was business cards to Rothschild's Big and Tall, a Hallmark frequent shoppers card, a reindeer feed shop card. There was an international driving permit made out to Santario Claus with a picture. There were photos of me and Martha in Leningrad, 91. Dasher on his 100th birthday, the details. My dad was all about the details, and he was so good at creating a fantasy and convincing an audience of something, and we all know that from his work. And he was also he was the gentlest giant who loved the classics, and he loved to watch movies with me, and when we would watch movies, it was like all in, phones off. He would look over to make sure I was paying attention. And the other thing is that he would just unabashedly weep if he was moved by something. The opening notes to the overture of West Side Story, just bawling. And I thought it was so beautiful how he was so unshy about being moved by something. And it really showed me the power of movies to create empathy, to create emotion. And I think from an early age, I felt this desire to do that. And not only that, but for any of you who are filmmakers, creatives, being on set, I don't think there's anything more magical and amazing than being on set. And I was so lucky to get to go to set with him as a kid. And the bug bit me. The bug bit me very young. And so my dad wasn't necessarily a fan of me going to film school, but I really wanted to go to film school because I wanted the structure and I wanted the education. He was very much a renegade, get a camera and go do it, kid. And I am a little more type A. I'm a Virgo, and I identify with that very strongly. I like a list. I like my homework assignment. I like to get my homework assignment done. And I wanted the tutelage. I wanted to learn. So I went to New York for film school. And after film school, I was very reluctant to get a 9-to-5 job, so I did a little of this, a little of that, including I started DJing. I started DJing. My nightlife persona became DJ Trix. She wears a rabbit mask and a wig, and I really came of age in the queer nightlife scene of New York. It is in this space where I found a lot of creative expression, self-expression. I found chosen family, and I kind of grew up. That was in my 20s in New York City, and it's also in these spaces where I witnessed the evolution of the queer community. What started as like very divided, girls partying over here, boys partying over here, as identity changed and opened up, everybody started to hang out together. And I was very interested in that shift in the scene. And there was a beloved party that I worked at regularly where there was a promoter rift, and one of the co-promoters broke off and started a rival party on the same night, and it was bad form, big drama. There was a social media manifesto posted online that said, "When will the queer community stop devouring its own?" And that's when it hit me. People would ask me all the time, "Don't you want to make zombie movies?" And I would say, no, I don't want to touch zombies. That's my dad's thing. I want to stick to fantasy, gender-swapped Peter Pan, movie musicals. But when the light bulb came, it came so hard and I couldn't deny it. It was like, it was a full body yes, because I thought that the queer nightlife world, which is full of fascinating characters, really scrappy, creative people who know how to make it work in a pinch, I wanted to see what happens when I put them through the zombie apocalypse. And I just thought it was a story that I could tell. It's characters I know, it's New York, it's a world that I felt like I could paint for people. So 8 years later, here we are. And it did take 8 years to get this thing cooking. And it was a long road, but we shot last summer in Paterson, New Jersey, and it's been a wildfire year, but the movie is done, and I'm just so grateful that Shudder and IFC have agreed to put it out into the world, because you make an indie movie and that's not always the case. And yeah, that was a long answer to your question.
That's a good origin story, though. So I'm going to dovetail off of some of those questions, because I remember talking with Tina about this film as early as 2019.
Yeah.
We were doing some of what we, in those days, called Romero Lives, which were big festivals of the Romero life and legacy, and you were working on it then. And so my hope is that you'd be willing to unpack some of the process for us. Sure. Where did you start? How long did the script take to form and refine? And then from there, so that we can have an audience understand that it is just simply not easy to make films, particularly films that get successful distribution. It's a real challenge and a real war, and so you've had the perseverance to do it. Talk a little bit about the process that you went to do so.
Well, for me, I got the chance to pitch my dad the idea. Before he left us, I've been lucky that the lightning bolt happened before he was gone, and I was able to say, "Dad, this is what I want to do." He thought it was funny. He thought it was like a great idea, a great concept. He said, "Kid, do it." And I never got to show him a script, but he did know that I was going to go for it. And I always start, Jeff. I don't start on the page. I start with a playlist. I start with a collage. I start with images. And I started with, making a mood board and making a playlist and getting out the whiteboard and just like throwing crazy disjointed ideas and characters. And I knew that I can't be my dad's kid if I'm not going to try to say some shit. So the place I started was a whiteboard of like, okay, social commentary. What's it going to be? What are the issues? What is the tableau? Because I knew that I wanted to stick within the Romero zombie universe. I was not going to break the mythology rules. My zombies were going to be slow. They were going to be sympathetic. One bite turns you. You got to take out the brain. And then I decided to add one new piece of the mythology, which is that they're still responding to their devices, because I think my dad would have approved.
Yeah.
And so at the top of my list, my tapestry was like phones, device addiction, social media, all that junk. And then I wanted to also dig into the opioid epidemic and drug use, especially in the queer community, infighting within the queer community, and the corporate poaching of queer talent. And those were some of my biggest themes. And then I got out the note cards and started making characters. And I think that the biggest, I called up my friend Erin Judge, my co-writer on the movie. She and I went to college together. We've been collaborating for a long time. And I knew I needed her because she's a hilarious, brilliant writer and stand-up comedian. And this is a movie that has drag queens. So I knew I was gonna need a punchline or two, at least in the script, to sell the world. And so she and I got to work on the characters. And we wrote with abandon. We didn't think about budget, we didn't think about shootability, and we wrote a monster script. We wrote like the $30 million version of this movie. It had multiple parties going on because I was very interested in like all the different parties that take place on any given Saturday night.
Yeah.
We had 5 parties. There were fights on the street with Con Ed zombies. There was like a boat, a getaway boat, and a water fight. It was extreme. But once we got that first draft done, we had a draft. And from there, it was just about how do we contain it? How do we whittle it down to something that's achievable? How do we make it fit into a budget that's doable? And just drafts and drafts and drafts and drafts and drafts later. And a couple of table reads and many, many notes. And eventually, I started working with a production company called Vanishing Angle. They are out of LA. And they got on board for the end of development, and they found us our backstop deal with Independent Film Company. And that backstop deal for small movies is a really powerful thing because it's not money. For those of you who don't know what that means, it's a company that says we are going to guarantee to buy this movie for X amount of dollars when it is done. It's not cash to make the movie, but it is a guarantee to buy it. And then you have something that a financier can bank against. And that was the game changer because we had something where we could go out and say like, listen, if you put money into this, we know we're gonna get this amount back. And that's just a little bit of the business side. I think it's interesting because it's not something that happens a lot in the industry, and it's a really good thing for little movies. And then it was all about casting. And I started writing letters to people years before I had any business to do so. I was writing letters to people that I dreamt of being in this movie 3 years before we had a green light or a yellow light. And it was, my producers encouraged me to do that. I kind of groaned because it was a little laborious. It was a lot of no's, constant no's. But I'm so glad at the end of the day that they encouraged me to do this part of it, because I think that when you're trying to get cast and you're trying to get talent, in addition to having a script and a lookbook, having a personal letter from the person behind the project, I think it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they encouraged me to do that part of it all. And because it only took a couple magical yeses. And Dominique Jackson, who is a legend in the queer community and from the 90s ballroom scene in New York, she's in a wonderful series called Pose. She was my first magical yes. And when she attached to play Yasmin, I feel like it started to unlock the waterfall of other talent saying like, oh, if Dominique Jackson is doing this movie, I'm gonna give it more careful of a read. And so then the floodgates opened and we started to fill the thing up, and then we got the rest of our financing, and we decided to pull the train out of the station, even though we definitely didn't have enough money to do it. We said we're gonna do it anyway, and the whole thing became a whack-a-mole game of solving problems, but there's magic to that, and there is magic that money can't buy. And ultimately, I feel the baby came out with less toes than I thought she would have. She has like 6 toes, not 10.
Not 10, yeah.
But I can't help but love her for exactly who she is.
Right on.
Yeah.
I think that's always the way too, right? When you're an independent filmmaker trying to finance your projects in a very, very challenging environment, it's one of the ways you get them across the finish line. So let's talk a little bit about your influences. Because I think the film is riddled with music. I'm curious to know what your film influences are, what your music influences are, and of course, your dad will be influential, but let's know about you also, because I think that the film is an interesting mix of, as you say, George's zombie world and true to it, but with the cell phone devices, which is amazing, but also with a lot of you. And I think that's part of what makes it special. So what is you in that film particularly?
Okay, well, I like to tell people that I met a mall Santa. I met a zombie before I sat on a mall Santa's lap. I grew up on Pippi Longstocking, Rainbow Bright, 80s Disney, Bye Bye Birdie, West Side Story, the cheesy shit. But then I would tiptoe to the bathroom at night past Fluffy's crate from Creepshow. And it was chained and it had blood, and I knew it was a prop, but I wasn't totally convinced that Fluffy wasn't in there. And so I would just like walk a little bit more quickly by that shit. Or the Monkey Shines poster, which we all know is fucking terrifying. And like my world was a very strange mashup of dark and light. Because also, again, my dad was a very silly, loving, gentle guy, but there was no censorship in my household. So I was seeing stuff like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Jaws, like I was seeing some scary shit from a young age, and I was on set seeing bisected torsos and crazy rotting flesh, and it wasn't scary because for those of you who have worked in horror film, it often is very funny and fun to be around blood gags. It's actually, you're cracking up. You're not grossed out by it. You're having a good old time, and that was the energy on set. It was not scary stuff, but it was still dark imagery. And so I think that this is at the core of who I am as a creator, is like this edgy cheeseball is what I say.
Right on.
I am, and that is true in my music taste as well. Like I am, my band in the 90s was the Hanson Brothers. My walls, they were plastered, but I was also a No Doubt girl. I was also into some of like the 60s, Cat Stevens, and my dad was listening to Paul Simon, and then I got into Outkast, and like I've never been, I feel very open format in my taste musically and in my taste cinematically, and so I think this movie is very much a genre blend.
Yeah.
Some movies that I think are highly influential to this, I put on my list of like Moulin Rouge, Hedwig and the Angry Inch, Shaun of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead is a big one. The Goonies, Michael Jackson's Thriller, and those are some of my main. Those are some of my main influences.
Very, very cool. So let's talk a little bit about the filming itself now, because as you said, when you're whittling down the $30 million script into something that's manageable, what was the hardest part once you got to set at making some of those concessions?
Yeah.
And how did you overcome them?
On set, it was always time and money, never enough of either of those things. And it was an ambitious project. We had an ensemble cast with a lot of hair and makeup going on, because we had zombies and we had drag queens, and that was just meant like hours of makeup at the top of our day, hours of wardrobe, because it was also important to me that the aesthetic of the zombies felt different. I wanted it to be, for me personally, I find the zombie genre to be a little butch. And I was a little bit like ready for a refresh, and if I was going to tell this story in the world of queer nightlife, I felt the zombies needed to be fabulous, and they were dying on Saturday night in Bushwick. Like, they're not wearing ripped up denim and flannel; they're in their Saturday night fashion, like probably with some sequins. And so this all meant that we had a lot going on in the hair, makeup, and wardrobe area, and so that cut into our shooting time.
Yeah.
And we had one camera. And we had, not a lot of lights. And so I think the hardest thing was like having all the wonderful toys and pieces in place, but then having like 4 minutes to shoot the thing. And in those moments, I felt very stressed out inside, but I would actually, that's when I would channel my dad the most.
Interesting.
Because I would feel him on my shoulder, looking down, at 4 a.m. in the streets of New Jersey. We had a fog machine and like Nina West on a scooter in a nurse's outfit and 60 zombies. And it was so incredible. And I was so mad that I didn't have more time to shoot. And I would hear him telling me like, Tina, this is hilarious and ridiculous what you're doing. Don't forget to laugh. Don't forget to play. Don't forget to have fun. Like, it's not life or death. You're so lucky to be doing this right now. You're so lucky that you get to be making this movie. So try to keep that perspective. And so I think that was where I would think of my dad the most, is because he, at the end of the day, like he would find a way to laugh even when, and he did grind and he did struggle, and it was a lot of ups and downs in his career. But he always, I think, at the end of the day, found a way to laugh at things and have fun. Even in the business of killing zombies, he was always cracking himself up, because zombies are pretty silly, especially his zombies. So,
I was going to ask you that question actually, in terms of advice and motivation, and that's a good answer to that question. However, I'll ask you a different one, which is a slighter permutation. What do you think you learned from that process that you'll take into your next project?
Oh man, I think that what I learned from doing this film is that it really solidified for me that directing is 98% relationship management. And it is so much about keeping everybody motivated, happy, fed, and like motivated really to keep doing, when no one's making money, and trying to keep everyone creatively aligned. And it's like you could have your storyboards down packed, you could have it all prepared in your mind, and none of it's going to go the way that you thought it was going to go. And so it's like relationship management, saying your pleases and thank yous, and being ready to pivot at any point, and pivoting and being okay with it, and not freaking out if like your plan doesn't go the way that you thought it would. Yeah.
So what is next?
Ooh, what is next? The honest truth is I have no idea.
Fair enough.
I am salivating to do it again.
Right on.
I can't wait to do it again. You make a movie and you just want to get back in and be back on set. I have some ideas. I think in this industry you got to put multiple pots on the stove and see which one can boil over. I will say that the thing I have started writing is my Queens of the Dead treatment of a shark movie. My favorite genre of horror is what I call the chomper. I love to see animals just ripping the shit out of people. I don't know why. Like Cocaine Bear, Jurassic Park, Piranha, Alligator. I just love it. I can't get enough of it. I will not get in the ocean, but I will watch every shark movie that comes out. Dangerous Animals was so fun. And even though people kind of roll their eyes like, oh, another shark movie, I think it's another genre that's very butch, and I would like to queer it. I would like to queer the canon, and so I'm working with Aaron actually on our queer ensemble treatment of the shark movie, and then I have some other pots that I'm putting on the stove too. But.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So I want to pivot very quickly and talk about your role in the foundation.
Yes.
And so I'm interested in hearing your thoughts from your own words about the importance of the foundation, what you hope it can accomplish, and why you've chosen to be its vice president.
I'm so proud of the GARF. I am so proud of what you and Suzanne have just steered this ship in such a cool direction. It's incredible what you have done. It is also the fact that the Horror Studies Center at Pitt is going to be a real thing. It is a real thing. Is phenomenal. For those of you who don't know, the official first Horror Studies Center is happening at the Pit. Hopefully one day. We are working toward it becoming named after my dad. But this is a big deal. This is putting horror on the map in an academic space, and that is awesome, and my dad would have loved that. And so this has been one of our missions from the beginning, and I'm so psyched that that's happening. I also think that we are just doing him the service of keeping his legacy alive, and not just in, the horror community is an essential part of that. But then the fact that we are also getting to put it in the sense of, in academia, in the institutional area, legitimizing it in that way. There is space for both. There is space for horror in both places. And I think my dad was such a good teacher, he was such a good mentor, and so I am most psyched about the ways that we are growing our ability to help budding filmmakers, whether that's Screams in the Box, whether that's getting behind Gino's film. I want us to eventually get to the place where we have the funds that we can be funding movies.
Yes, that would be awesome. That would be amazing. It would be.
I think, I'm so happy to keep spreading the word and the mission of the GARF, and
Cool. And for those of you who don't know, I see some youngsters in the audience. Screams in a Box is actually for young children to start holding cameras and making little films in the space of a weekend. It's a crash course program. We help to sponsor it so that we can really be practicing what we preach in our belief that we think you should be holding cameras at a pretty young age and doing what George did, which was just get out there and try it. Tell a story, see how it goes. So that reference that Tina has just made is actually happening right now. Screams in a Box, the actual filming is happening as we speak. and we'll have a show on the Garf Network for all of the winners, where we'll announce who has won the competition this year in early November. And it is, and you were our guest judge last year. It's very
so
sweet.
Special. It's so
sweet.
special. And these kids are making great little films. It's amazing. Yeah.
So I will pause there because I do want to give you all an opportunity to ask some questions of Tina. Feel free to talk about Queens of the Dead, other inspirations, as well as things from the foundation, but I'll put in the plug that Tina will be upstairs in Hall A at the foundation's table until around 4:30 when we have to whisk her away to Row House Cinema, where we'll see some of you tonight for her 2 sold-out screenings. So, without further ado, I'll open up the floor to questions. I don't know if there's a mic runner. If you can talk loud, just feel free. Any questions from the... Oh, okay. Oh, great.
You mentioned Shudder.
Yeah.
Is the movie going to eventually play on Shudder?
Yes, the movie will be going to Shudder in December.
Awesome.
Okay, well, we look at
Yes, and it will be Shudder and AMC Plus in December, and it will be available for video on demand in November. Yeah.
All right, great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Other questions for
Anybody
Tina?
else? Anything at all?
Okay, looks like we got one. Here we go.
good,
It's always
yes.
about the first one. I wanted
Yes.
Adam Lowenstein to be you yesterday, but he sat quietly. So
Oh,
thanks
no.
for volunteering. Here we go.
Hi.
I like your hair.
Thank you.
It's very brave to me from the Star Wars.
Oh, yeah, I love that. Okay. Very cool.
So that's awesome to hear that your zombies follow the rules of your comic. Does it tie into any of the timelines of this movie? And I am very new to. I know Night of the Living Dead very well.
Okay.
Actually, Dawn of the Dead. My first time watching it was last night.
Was that night?
Last night.
Oh my God, welcome.
I loved it. It was really
Yes.
awesome, beginning to end. I'm getting into it.
Cool.
I can't wait to watch it. So my question, being so weird, is does your film tie into your dad's universe? Will we see that? Because I'm going to be looking for things like that. And do you plan to do more zombie movies or follow the same lines and stuff?
I love this question. I would consider my film to be in the same universe of the Deads, but it is not timeline-wise connected in that we are seeing the onset of the zombie apocalypse. We see life normal, and then we see life after the dead are rising. And I wanted to, I felt because I'm introducing myself as a new voice, it felt right to me to sort of start it all again. And I also just personally, I really like I like getting to see the world normal and then seeing it switch. There's something very yummy to me about that. So I wanted to in 2025, with a fresh perspective, start it from the top. But I can tell you there are some Easter eggs sprinkled throughout that link this film to my dad's work, and I think you will find them, even though you're new. And as far as the question of do I want to do more zombies, yes. But I also think there's something important about waiting a minute, because there's so much time in between my dad's films, and as a result, he was able to digest what was going on in the world and make this amazing they're like time capsules for the eras that they were made in. And I think I hope that this movie that I just made feels like the current moment. And I think I would want to wait until I have something new to say. I don't want to jump in and do another one right away, because I think that there's something important about letting the world unfold a little bit so that you can use the zombies to digest it. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, as a kid, I loved Creepshow.
Oh, Creepshow is so great.
And you never know every detail about movies. You just go and watch
Yeah.
them and enjoy them. So I didn't know it was through Romero coming here this weekend. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Creepshow is a big influence. There's a lot of Creepshow influence in the way that Queens of the Dead looks and the lighting, and yeah.
Other questions?
Don't be shy.
If no more, I'm going to ask Tina one more.
Okay.
You alluded to this earlier, but since, I do moonlight in academia with our friend Dr. Horror Adam Lowenstein.
Yes.
And as Tina has mentioned, we have founded the world's first horror study center. I would be remiss, because a lot of what we do is study the motivations and what messages are being sent through the films. You've talked a little bit about that from your mood board,
Yeah.
but what is the message that you want to send to the audience who will view this film? What is the social consciousness of Queens of the Dead?
For me, it's about, this is not a final girl movie, spoiler alert. We don't make it down to one lone survivor. And that was a conscious choice because this film is about the queer community. And now I hope that our intention was to show this world and show this community, but make a film that everyone feels invited to. It's not just for the queer people. It's very much a film that I hope everybody can enjoy. But the message really is get off your phone and hang on to your humanity and have some face-to-face conversations with the people, because the only way we're going to make it out of this shit is if we stick together and stop fighting over stupid shit online.
Right on. That's a very nice way to end. Yes. If no other questions, we'll put one last plug in to come and meet. Oh, do you want a question? Okay, go ahead. Please.
Hi, my name is Michael Savini.
Hi.
I met you, I think you said pre-show.
Oh, amazing. Oh my God.
Was there any backlash with the Queen based or based that you back from all that?
Not yet, but I'm sure it's coming.
Not for me.
It's just come out. This movie came out. It went into the world 2 days ago. In limited theaters, we're on 150 screens around the country, and mostly bigger cities. And I know already. I'm kind of going to avoid some of the internet talkback, but I know that there's already been a little bit of homophobia popping up on certain platforms, and it's just to be expected. But there's also been a lot of embracing of it, and I think it will be both. Yeah.
I hope we do the job as a horror community of embracing. Yeah, because in a lot of respects, and you'll see this once we do the Horror Studies Center, horror is a place of otherness.
Yeah.
And so to be not together is counter to what the genre is and does. And so I do hope you see more of the belonging and the togetherness than the not.
Me too.
We'll let the not be from all those other people
That's right.
not from our own circle.
Yeah, exactly. I've been saying everyone's inviting to the party, but you don't have to come if you don't want to. Oh, good, yes.
Good.
Excellent.
All right, everybody, thanks for coming.
Thank you all so much for coming.
Come and see us upstairs. We'll be there for about an hour and a half, 2 hours before we have to get downtown.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Tina.
That was awesome. Happy Living Dead Weekend. Happy Halloween. You're amazing.
You are.
Such a good tour.